Her husband went abroad with his
I
mistress
wish
so the
you
woman
could
could give birth,
understand.
and even his 6 family members traveled with
I
them,
do
proudly
understand.
expecting a new heir. She stayed behind, silent and forgotten, until the day they all returned, panicked and desperate. The moment they stepped onto the street, they froze, staring at the empty space where their grand house once stood. Confused and trembling, they turned to her and asked, "Our house, where is it?" "Hi, my beautiful family. Welcome back to Mr. Peter Stories, your own family channel. May the Almighty wrap every woman in a love so gentle and powerful that it lifts the pain from her heart and replaces it with pure light. May He bless you with calm mornings, peaceful nights, and days filled with quiet miracles. You are the soul of your homes, the unseen strength behind every victory, the warm hands that heal without words. I pray that whatever has hurt you becomes a doorway to something better, that every burden becomes lighter, every tear turns into comfort, and every dream comes closer with ease. May your steps be protected, your hearts be honored, and your worth be celebrated the way it truly deserves. You are love, you are grace, you are the reason families stand strong. If your heart is true, like the video, if your love is real, right, I am with Mr. Peter. They left on a Tuesday morning, 6 suitcases and 7 smiles, heading toward a future that didn't include her. Shailene Rose stood at the kitchen window, her fingers wrapped around a coffee mug that had gone cold an hour ago, watching her husband load another woman into the passenger seat of their black SUV. Havana. How adjusted her swollen belly, 7 months pregnant with Alden Weary's child, and laughed at something Cordelia said through the open car window. Alden's mother, laughing with his mistress like they were celebrating. Shailene's hands trembled slightly. She'd cried all her tears 3 weeks ago when Alden announced this trip over breakfast, his voice casual, like he was discussing the weather instead of abandoning his wife for 3 months. "Switzerland," he'd said, not looking up from his phone. "Havana wants the baby born there. Family tradition." "Since when?" Shailene had asked quietly. "Since always. It's what the Weary family does." The Weary family, not our family. His family, the one that had never included her despite 7 years of marriage. Now Cordelia emerged from the house carrying a designer diaper bag, her daughters Lennox and Bryony trailing behind with more luggage, their voices bright with excitement. Alden's father Thorne loaded the second vehicle with military precision while his brother Jasper checked tire pressure. Even grandmother Isolde, 83 years old with her silver hair styled perfectly, climbed into the sedan with Lennox's help. 7 people, 8 if you counted the pregnant mistress glowing in the front seat. 1 destination, 1 celebration, 1 family, complete without her. Not one of them looked toward the kitchen window. Cordelia hugged Havana through the car window, her hands cradling the pregnant belly with such tenderness that Shailene felt something crack inside her chest. "We'll all be there when she arrives," Cordelia cooed, "a true Weary heir born in Switzerland. How perfect." Shailene had been married to Alden for 7 years, 7 years of holidays where she cooked while they celebrated. 7 years of family photos where Cordelia somehow positioned her at the edge, easy to crop out later. 7 years of Sunday dinners where she served food while they discussed family business she wasn't privy to. 7 years, and Cordelia had never once touched her with affection. But Havana, this woman sleeping with her son, Cordelia treated her like the daughter she'd always wanted. Alden finally approached the house. Shailene's heart did something pathetic. It hoped he'd come inside, hoped he'd kiss her goodbye, hoped he'd acknowledge she existed. Instead, he opened the mailbox, pulled out an envelope and tapped it against the window glass. She opened the window. Morning air rushed in, cold and sharp. $3,000, he said, sliding the envelope across the sill. His eyes never met hers. "Household expenses. Gardener comes on Thursdays. Don't forget to pay him. Lawn service bill is due next week." She took the envelope, felt its weight. $3,000 for 3 months. He'd calculated it perfectly. Utilities, groceries, gardener, lawn service. Down to the dollar. "That's it?" The words came out smaller than she'd intended. What else would there be? His tone sharpened with impatience. It's only 3 months, Shailene. Don't call unless there's an emergency. We need this time together. As a family. Family. The word was a knife between her ribs. The house is your responsibility while we're gone, he continued, his voice taking on that lecturing tone. Take care of it. We'll celebrate when we get back. Celebrate. The baby, the heir, the continuation of the weary bloodline through someone who wasn't her. Have a safe trip, Alden. He nodded, already turning away, already gone. 3 months. I'll send photos. Photos of Havana's pregnancy. Photos of his family, complete without his wife. Cordelia's voice cut through the morning. Alden, we're going to miss the flight. He jogged back to the SUV, climbed in, started the engine. Through the windshield, Shailene could see them all in painful clarity. Cordelia reaching over to squeeze Havana's hand, her face radiant. Thorne checking his watch, always punctual. Lennox and Bryony in the back seat, heads together, laughing at something on a phone, their matching designer sunglasses pushed into their hair. Jasper driving the second car with Isolde beside him, her wrinkled hands folded primly in her lap. 8 people in 2 vehicles. One purpose, one family unit, whole and complete without her. The SUV pulled away first, sleek and black. The sedan followed, Jasper's careful driving keeping perfect distance. She watched them turn the corner, watched them disappear, watched until the street fell silent and the only sound was her own breathing. Shailene stood there for 5 more minutes, holding the envelope with $3,000, staring at the empty street where her marriage had just driven away without looking back. Then she walked to her father's desk. The old oak desk sat in the study, untouched by Alden because he'd called it old man junk and never bothered looking through it. She opened the bottom drawer and pulled out the deed to the house. Shailene Rose Lancaster, sole owner, her maiden name, preserved in legal ink. The Victorian mansion, 12 rooms, wraparound porch, gardens her father had planted himself, had never been marital property. Her father had made certain of that before he died, his voice weak but fierce from the hospital bed. This house is yours, Shailene, he'd whispered, gripping her hand. Only yours. I had the lawyers make it ironclad. Not marital property. Yours. Don't ever let them take what's yours. Not your name, not your house, not your soul. She'd let them take her soul anyway, but they'd never asked about the house, never questioned ownership. They'd just assumed it was weary family property, assumed it always would be, assumed she'd always be there to maintain it. They'd assumed wrong. Shailene pulled out her phone and dialed the number she'd saved 3 weeks ago, the moment Alden announced Switzerland. A woman's voice answered. Octavia Finch, luxury real estate. How may I help you? My name is Shailene Rose. Her voice was steady, calm, certain. I have a property to sell. Victorian mansion, 12 rooms, prime location. I need it gone within 2 weeks. There was a pause. That's a very aggressive timeline. May I ask why? Because in 3 months people are going to come looking for this house. Shailene looked around the kitchen where she'd cooked 1,000 meals no one thanked her for. And I want it to be gone. Another pause. I have a client, tech entrepreneur, just sold his company. When can I see it? Tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. I'll be there, Ms. Rose. Shailene ended the call and stood in the kitchen that had witnessed 7 years of her disappearance. She thought about every dinner where Cordelia criticized her cooking. Your roast is too dry. Can't you do anything right? She thought about every holiday where she cleaned up while they opened gifts. She thought about last Christmas when Havana sat on Alden's lap in the living room while Shailene pretended to be busy making coffee. She thought about the bedroom upstairs where Alden had stopped touching her 2 years ago, stopped speaking except to give instructions, stopped looking at her like she was a woman and started looking at her like furniture. She thought about all of it and felt nothing but cold clarity. The next morning, Octavia Finch arrived in a silver Mercedes, her heels clicking on the porch steps like a countdown. She was tall, elegant, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She walked through the house with precision, nodding at the original hardwood floors, the crown molding, the stained glass windows. "This is extraordinary," Octavia said, standing in the foyer. "Easily 4.5 million in this market. How much are you asking?" 4.2 million, cash only, no contingencies. Close in 10 days. Octavia's eyebrow lifted. "You're leaving 300,000 on the table. I'm leaving a prison. The money is just the key." Octavia studied her for a long moment. "I'll have my client here this afternoon. He'll want it." They shook hands, and Shailene felt the first spark of power she'd experienced in years. That evening, her phone buzzed. A photo from Switzerland, Havana by a lake, her pregnant belly silhouetted against an alpine sunset. The family group chat caption read, "Glowing mother-to-be, 8 weeks until we meet our miracle, 8 weeks until the baby, 12 weeks until they came home, 12 weeks until they returned to find nothing." Shailene stared at the photo for 30 seconds, then deleted it without responding. By week's end, the house inspection cleared. The tech entrepreneur was ecstatic. The sale moved forward. Shailene hired an estate sale company to liquidate everything. The antique dining table Cordelia was so proud of, sold to a restaurant. The china from Isolde's mother, sold to a collector. Thorne's leather armchairs, sold to a law office. Every piece of the weary family legacy scattered to strangers. Her father's belongings, his books, his photographs, his reading glasses. She moved carefully into storage. Everything else was donated or destroyed. On closing day, Shailene sat in the lawyer's office and signed her name 43 times. 43 signatures to erase 7 years of marriage. $4.2 million transferred into her account at exactly 2:15 in the afternoon. The tech entrepreneur shook her hand, smiling. "Thank you for this opportunity. My family is going to love this house." "Your family," Shailene repeated, and for the first time in 7 years, she smiled genuinely. "I hope you build something beautiful there." She walked out of the lawyer's office, a wealthy woman with no home and no husband. She walked out free. That night, she stood across the street as the demolition crew arrived. The new owner wanted it torn down, wanted to build something modern, something his. Shailene watched the wrecking ball swing, watched the porch, where Alden had kissed Havana goodbye, collapse, watched the kitchen where Cordelia had made her feel worthless crumble, watched the bedroom where her marriage died fall into rubble. By dawn, nothing remained but broken wood and shattered glass. A construction worker noticed her watching. "You okay, miss? You've been standing here all night." "I'm perfect," she said, her voice strong. "I'm finally perfect." She took one photograph on her phone, the empty lot, the rubble, the sunrise. Then she walked to her new apartment 6 blocks away. Small, clean, furnished simply, nothing that carried memories. She sat on the couch and opened her phone. 23 new messages in the family group chat. Photos of Swiss restaurants, videos of Isolde shopping for baby clothes, updates on nursery colors. Not one message asking where she was, not one message noticing she'd stopped responding. She blocked every number, changed her own, deleted every social media account. Then she opened the photo of her father, the two of them in front of the Victorian house when she was 18, his arm around her shoulders, both smiling. "I did it, Dad," she whispered to the empty apartment. "I burned it all down." And for the first time in 7 years of marriage, Shailene Rose allowed herself to cry. Not for Alden, not for his family, but for the woman she'd been before them. The woman who'd forgotten how to fight. The woman who'd stood silent while her life was dismantled piece by piece. She cried until she was empty. Then she began to build. 3 months. They'd be home in 3 months. 3 months of Swiss mountains and baby preparations. 3 months until they returned, expecting to find everything as they'd left it. The house maintained, the bills paid, the wife waiting quietly where she belonged. 3 months until they asked, "Where is our house?" 3 months until she answered, "Gone, just like the woman you tried to kill." Chapter 2. The Vanishing. The real estate agent looked at the empty lot like it was a fresh canvas. and Shailene looked at it like it was a grave she'd dug with her own hands. She stood across the street in the early morning light, watching construction workers frame the foundation for luxury condos. The Victorian mansion was gone completely now, not even rubble remaining, just dirt and plans for something new. A jogger passed by, slowed, stared at the lot. "Wasn't there a beautiful old house here?" he asked Shailene. "There was," she said. "What happened to it?" "It died," she replied and kept walking. She'd been free from Alden for 3 weeks now, free from his family, free from their messages and their expectations and their casual cruelty. The silence in her new apartment was deafening at first, but now she was learning to appreciate it. No footsteps on the stairs, no voices critiquing her choices, no husband sleeping in the same bed while living in a different world. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Shailene," a woman's voice, uncertain. "It's Petra, Alden's cousin. I got your new number from your old office. Are you okay? No one's heard from you in weeks." Shailene sat down on a park bench. Petra had always been kind, but kindness from the weary family felt like a trap now. "I'm fine," she said carefully. "Alden's been trying to reach you. He says your phone is disconnected, and I drove by the house yesterday, but there's just construction. What's going on?" "I sold the house," Shailene said simply. Silence on the other end. Then, "You sold it?" "It was mine to sell." "But where are you living? Where's all the furniture?" "Shailene, Cordelia's been calling me, asking if I've seen you. She's worried." Shailene almost laughed. "Cordelia has never worried about me a day in her life." "Please," Petra said softly, "just tell me you're safe." "I'm safe. I'm more than safe. I'm free." She hung up before Petra could respond, then blocked that number too. The apartment she'd rented was in a quiet neighborhood downtown, far from the suburban sprawl where the Victorian house once stood. It was the kind of place where people minded their own business, where she could walk to coffee shops and bookstores without running into anyone she knew. She'd opened a new bank account, transferred her money, hired a financial advisor recommended by Octavia, a sharp woman named Ramona Vale, who asked direct questions and gave honest answers. "4.2 million is a substantial amount," Ramona had said during their first meeting. "With smart investments, you'll never have to worry about money again." "What are your goals?" Shailene had thought about that. Independence, security, and making sure no one can ever take anything from me again. Ramona had nodded. "Then let's build you a fortress." Now, walking through the downtown streets, Shailene felt like a stranger in her own life. She'd cut her hair shorter, stopped wearing the conservative dresses Cordelia always insisted looked proper, started dressing for herself. Jeans and soft sweaters, boots instead of heels. She felt lighter, younger, more alive than she had in years. She stopped at a coffee shop called The Wandering Bean, ordered a latte, and sat by the window with a book she'd been meaning to read for months. The morning sun streamed through the glass, and for a moment, everything felt almost peaceful. "Excuse me," a voice said. "Is this seat taken?" She looked up. A man stood there, holding his own coffee, gesturing to the empty chair across from her. He was tall, with dark hair and kind eyes, wearing a simple jacket and jeans. There were other empty tables, but something about his smile made her nod. "It's free," she said. He sat down, opened a sketchbook, and began drawing. She returned to her book. They sat in comfortable silence for 20 minutes before he spoke again. "I'm Malachi," he said, not looking up from his sketch. "I've seen you here before." "Have you?" "Last week. You were sitting in the same spot, reading a different book. You looked sad." She closed her book. "I wasn't sad. I was thinking." "About what?" "About how much easier it is to destroy things than to build them." He looked up then, meeting her eyes. "That sounds like experience talking." "It is." He smiled gently. "Well, if you're interested in building something, there's an art exhibit downtown this weekend. Local artists. No pressure, but if you need a distraction from thinking, it might help. He slid a small card across the table. Gallery address, opening hours. Why are you inviting me? She asked. Because you look like someone who needs to remember that beautiful things still exist. Before she could respond, he gathered his things, smiled, and left. Shailene sat there for a long time, holding the card, wondering if she was ready for beautiful things. She threw the card in the trash on her way out. That evening, she received her first email from Alden. He'd somehow gotten her new address. The subject line read, "Where are you?" She deleted it without opening it. The next day, a letter arrived at her apartment, hand-delivered from a lawyer's office. Inside was a notice that Alden was contesting the sale of the house, claiming it was marital property and she had no right to sell it without his consent. Shailene called her own lawyer, a woman Octavia had recommended. Her name was Vivian Cross, and her voice on the phone was like steel wrapped in velvet. "Do they have any legal standing?" Shailene asked. "None whatsoever," Vivian replied. "The deed was in your name only, inherited from your father before the marriage. It was never marital property. This is a desperate attempt to intimidate you." "What do I do?" "Nothing. Let me handle it. They can contest all they want. They'll lose." Shailene hung up and felt the first flutter of real fear. Not fear that she'd done something wrong, but fear that Alden would keep reaching, keep trying to pull her back into his orbit. She needed to do something, anything, to remind herself she was in control. She pulled the gallery card out of the trash. The exhibit was on Saturday afternoon. She arrived wearing a blue dress she'd bought that morning, something she'd never have worn when Cordelia was dictating her wardrobe. The gallery was small, intimate, filled with paintings and photographs that captured raw emotion. And there was Malachi, standing by his own work, a series of black and white photographs showing abandoned buildings reclaimed by nature, empty houses with trees growing through the floorboards, churches with vines covering the altars, beauty in decay. "You came," he said when he saw her. "I almost didn't." "What changed your mind?" "I needed to see if beautiful things still existed." He smiled. "And do they?" She looked at his photographs, at the way he'd found Grace in ruin, and something in her chest loosened. "Yes, they do." They walked through the exhibit together, talking about art and life and nothing of consequence. He didn't ask personal questions. He didn't push. He simply existed beside her, easy and warm and safe. When the exhibit ended, he asked if she wanted to get dinner. She said no. He didn't look offended. "Okay, but I'll be at Giovanni's next Friday at 7, if you change your mind." She walked home alone, her mind spinning. She'd just met this man, and already she was building walls. Already she was assuming the worst. Already she was protecting herself from something that hadn't even happened yet. That night, she lay in bed and thought about Alden, about how he'd been kind at first too, about how he'd made her feel safe before he made her feel invisible. She thought about Malachi's easy smile, his lack of pressure, his willingness to let her run. And she wondered if she was protecting herself or punishing herself. On Friday night, she stood outside Giovanni's restaurant at 7 o'clock, her heart pounding. Through the window, she could see Malachi sitting at a corner table, reading a menu, glancing occasionally at the door. She turned to leave. Then she stopped. She thought about the house, about watching it crumble to dust, about how destroying it had felt like power but hadn't brought peace. She thought about spending the rest of her life running from anything that felt like risk. And she walked into the restaurant. Malachi looked up, and his face lit up, not with triumph, but with simple happiness. "You came." "I almost didn't," she said, sitting down. "What changed your mind?" She thought about it. "I'm tired of being afraid." They talked for 3 hours. He told her about his photography, about his sister, who died when he was young, about moving to the city to start over. She told him nothing about her marriage, nothing about the house, nothing about the war she was still fighting. But she laughed. For the first time in months, she laughed genuinely. When he reached across the table to touch her hand, she pulled away instinctively. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "I can't." "Can't what?" "Trust you. Trust this. Trust anything." He leaned back, his expression thoughtful. Then don't. Trust takes time. But maybe we can just have dinner. No expectations, no pressure. Just two people eating pasta. She looked at him, at his open face and patient eyes, and felt something crack inside her. Just pasta, she agreed. They left the restaurant together, and he walked her to her building. At the door, he didn't try to kiss her. He simply said, "Same time next week?" She hesitated, then nodded. Same time. As she watched him walk away, she realized something terrifying. She wanted to see him again. She wanted to trust him. She wanted to believe that not every man was Alden. But she also knew that wanting something didn't make it safe. In Switzerland, Alden stood in a luxury suite overlooking the Alps, staring at his phone. His lawyer had just called with bad news. The house sale was legal. Shailene had every right to sell it. There was nothing he could do. Cordelia stood behind him, her voice sharp. "How could you let this happen? That was our family home." "It was never ours," Alden said quietly. "It was hers." "Then you should have made sure it became ours," Cordelia snapped. "You should have had her sign papers, transfer the deed. You should have protected this family." Alden turned to face his mother. "She was my wife. I thought she'd always be there." "She was weak," Cordelia said dismissively. "Weak women break when you push them. You should have pushed harder." But Alden was beginning to suspect that Shailene wasn't weak at all, that maybe he'd mistaken silence for surrender, that maybe he'd destroyed the only real thing he'd ever had. Back in her apartment, Shailene stood by the window looking out at the city lights. She thought about Malachi, about dinner, about the terrifying possibility of letting someone in. She thought about the house that no longer existed, about Alden in Switzerland celebrating a child that wasn't hers, about Cordelia and Lennox and Bryony and all of them living their lives as if she'd never mattered. And she realized something. Destroying the house hadn't been revenge. It had been liberation. But rebuilding herself, that was going to be the real battle. She pulled out her phone and opened her calendar. Next Friday, 7 o'clock. Giovanni's. She added it to her schedule. Then she went to bed, and for the first time in years, she slept without nightmares. Chapter 3. The Silence. They sent photos. Havana's baby bump in designer maternity wear. Grandmother Isolde holding tiny Swiss-made clothes, all of them toasting champagne at a rooftop restaurant, and Shailene deleted every single one without looking twice. The messages came through a new group chat they'd created after she blocked the old one. They must have gotten her new number from someone, though she couldn't figure out who. The messages arrived daily, sometimes multiple times a day. Photos of their Swiss adventure, videos of Havana laughing in a meadow, updates on the baby's development. Not one message asked how Shailene was doing, not one message acknowledged that she existed outside of being an audience for their happiness. She deleted them all. On a Wednesday morning, her phone rang. Petra again, calling from yet another number. "Please don't hang up," Petra said quickly. "I know you don't want to talk to them, but Shailene, they're getting worried. Cordelia thinks something happened to you." "Cordelia doesn't think about me at all," Shailene replied calmly. "That's not fair. She's concerned. She's concerned that I'm not playing my role anymore. There's a difference." Petra sighed. "What happened? I mean, I know things weren't good, but selling the house? Disappearing? This isn't like you." "You're right," Shailene said softly. "The old me would have never done this. The old me would have waited at home, sent congratulations messages, pretended everything was fine. But the old me is gone." "Where?" "I buried her under the rubble of that house." She hung up and blocked Petra's new number. That afternoon, Shailene met with Ramona Vale, her financial advisor. They sat in Ramona's sleek office overlooking the city, reviewing investment portfolios and discussing long-term strategies. "You're doing well," Ramona said, scrolling through charts on her computer. "Your money is working for you. In a year, you'll have generated substantial passive income. In 5 years, you'll be set for life." "I want to do something with it," Shailene said suddenly. "What do you mean?" "I want to help women. Women like me, women who are trapped in marriages where they've lost themselves. I want to create some kind of fund or program that helps them get out. Ramona leaned back, studying her. That's not a small undertaking. It would require time, resources, a lot of emotional energy. I have all three. Then let's explore it. But first, you need to finish healing. You can't help others if you're still bleeding. Shailene nodded, knowing Ramona was right. She was stronger than she'd been a month ago, but she was far from whole. That evening, she went to her second dinner with Malachi at Giovanni's. He was already there, reading a photography magazine, a glass of red wine in front of him. "You came again," he said, smiling. "I did. Does this mean you trust me now?" "No," she said honestly, "but I'm here anyway." He laughed. "Fair enough." They talked about his work, about a new project he was starting that involved photographing ordinary people in extraordinary moments. She found herself relaxing, laughing at his stories, forgetting for brief moments that she was still a woman in hiding. Halfway through dinner, he asked, "Can I know your story?" She froze. "What story?" "The one that makes you pull away every time I get too close. The one that makes you delete your pasta nervously when the conversation gets too real. I don't need details. I just want to understand." She put down her fork. "Why?" "Because I like you. And I want to know what I'm walking into." She took a breath. "I was married. It ended badly. He hurt me in ways that didn't leave bruises. And now I'm learning how to exist again." Malachi nodded slowly. "Thank you for telling me." "That's it? You're not going to ask for more details?" "Not unless you want to give them. Everyone's got damage. The question isn't what hurt you, it's whether you're healing." "I don't know if I am," she admitted. "Then we'll figure it out together. No pressure. Just pasta, remember." She smiled despite herself. Just pasta. But as dinner continued, she felt herself building walls again. When he laughed, she questioned if it was genuine. When he complimented her, she wondered what he wanted. When he suggested they see each other again, she invented excuses. By the end of the night, she could see the confusion in his eyes. "Did I do something wrong?" he asked, as they stood outside the restaurant. "No, I'm just not ready for this." "For what?" "Dinner. Conversation. For anything that feels like it could hurt me." He stepped closer, not touching her, just present. "Shailene, I can't promise I won't hurt you. People hurt each other, even when they care. But I can promise I'll never intentionally make you feel small. I can promise I'll see you, really see you." Tears burned behind her eyes. "The last man who promised to see me stopped looking at me 2 years into our marriage. I'm not him. Everyone says that. Then judge me by my actions, not his." She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him. But belief felt like a luxury she couldn't afford. "I need time," she whispered. "Take all the time you need. I'll be here." She walked home alone, her mind a battlefield. Part of her wanted to run back to Malachi, to let him hold her, to risk being broken again if it meant feeling something real. Another part wanted to lock herself away, to never let anyone close enough to hurt her. She spent the next week avoiding his calls. He texted once. "No pressure, just wanted you to know I'm thinking about you." She didn't respond. Meanwhile, the demolition of the Victorian house was complete. The construction crew had started building the foundation for luxury condos. She walked by the site one evening and stood across the street, watching workers pour concrete where her father's study used to be. A construction worker noticed her watching. "You live around here?" he called out. "I used to," she said. "They're building something nice. 10 units, all high-end. Should be finished by spring." Spring. 6 months away. By then, Alden and his family would be home. By then, they'd come looking for a house that no longer existed. The thought should have brought satisfaction. Instead, it brought a strange emptiness. That night, she sat in her apartment and finally opened one of the messages from Switzerland. A video of Isolde giving a speech at a family dinner, talking about legacy and bloodlines and the importance of the next generation. Havana sat beside Alden, glowing, while Cordelia held up a baby outfit. Not once in the entire video did anyone mention Shailene's name. She watched it through, then deleted it. Then she pulled out her phone and texted Malachi. "I'm sorry." He responded immediately. "For what?" "For being afraid. Fear makes sense, but you don't have to be alone with it." She stared at the message for a long time. Then she typed, "Coffee tomorrow?" "Yes, the Wandering Bean, 10 a.m. She showed up at 10, and he was already there with 2 lattes. They didn't talk about her disappearing act. They talked about books and art, and the way light changed throughout the day. Easy things, safe things. When they parted ways, he hugged her. Brief, gentle, asking nothing. She didn't pull away. Over the next 2 weeks, they saw each other 4 more times. Coffee, lunch, a walk through a sculpture garden, dinner at a Thai restaurant. Each time she revealed a little more. Not about Alden, not about the house, but about herself. Her love of old bookstores, her father who taught her to garden, her dream of opening a business helping women rebuild their lives. Malachi listened to everything, asking questions that showed he was really hearing her, and slowly, terrifyingly, she began to trust him. But she also tested him. She cancelled plans at the last minute to see if he'd get angry. He didn't. She went silent for 3 days to see if he'd panic or pressure her. He sent one message: "Hope you're okay, here when you're ready." She accused him of having ulterior motives. "Why are you really doing this?" she demanded one evening over dinner. "What do you want from me?" He looked genuinely confused. "I want to get to know you. That's it." "Nobody does that without wanting something." "I do. I want conversation. I want connection. I want to spend time with someone interesting. Is that really so hard to believe?" "Yes," she said honestly. He sat back, studying her. "Someone really did a number on you, didn't they?" "Several people, actually." "Well, I'm not them. And I'm not going to keep paying for their crimes." The words hit her like cold water. "What does that mean?" "It means I care about you. I'm patient. I'm understanding. But I can't be punished forever for being a man who treated you well after you married a man who didn't. At some point, you have to decide if you're going to let me in, or if you're going to spend the rest of your life protecting yourself from something that isn't happening." Shailene felt her throat tighten. "You don't understand what it's like." "You're right, I don't, but I'm trying to, and you're not letting me." She stood up, her chair scraping loudly. "Maybe I should go." "Maybe you should, or maybe you should stay and have an honest conversation about what you're actually afraid of." She sat back down, her hands shaking. "I'm afraid you'll become him. I'm afraid I'll let you in and you'll destroy me, and I won't survive it this time." Malachi reached across the table but didn't touch her. "I can't promise I won't hurt you. Life hurts people. But I can promise I see what you're doing. I see you pushing me away because you're terrified. And I'm still here. I'm still showing up. At what point does that start to mean something?" Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I don't know." "Then figure it out. Because I really care about you, Shailene. But I can't be your emotional punching bag while you work through your trauma. That's not fair to either of us." He paid the check and left. She sat alone at the table, crying quietly, feeling like she'd just lost something precious because she was too broken to hold on to it. She went home and lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every interaction with Malachi, seeing for the first time how unfair she'd been, how she'd made him responsible for Alden's sins, how she'd tested him not to see if he was trustworthy but to prove he wasn't. She grabbed her phone and called him. He answered on the second ring. "Yeah? I'm sorry," she said through tears. "You're right. I've been punishing you for something you didn't do, and that's not fair. You've been nothing but kind and patient, and I've been cruel because I was scared." Silence. Then, "I don't think you're cruel. I think you're hurt. But you need to decide if you're going to let that hurt define the rest of your life." "I don't want it to." "Then stop pushing away the good things. Stop assuming everyone's going to hurt you. Start taking risks again." "What if I get it wrong?" "Then you get it wrong. But at least you tried. At least you lived. She closed her eyes. Can we start over? We never stopped. You just hit pause. Can I see you tomorrow? Yes. But Shailene, if you're going to keep me in your life, you have to actually let me in. No more tests. No more walls. Just honesty. Okay, she whispered. I'll try. That's all I'm asking. They hung up and she lay in bed feeling raw and exposed and terrified and hopeful all at once. In Switzerland, Alden received notification from his lawyer that the contest over the house had been dismissed. There was nothing he could do. The house was gone, the money was Shailene's, and legally she'd done nothing wrong. Havana sat beside him on the hotel balcony, her hand on her belly. Are you okay? She asked. I don't know, he admitted. It's just a house. It was her father's house. It was all she had left of him, and I let my family treat her like she didn't matter. I let them push her out. I let them make her invisible. Havana shifted uncomfortably. You're with me now. This is our future. But Alden stared out at the Swiss mountains and wondered if he'd traded something irreplaceable for something temporary. Back in her apartment, Shailene finally slept peacefully, knowing that tomorrow she would see Malachi again, knowing that she would try, really try, to let someone in, knowing that healing wasn't about forgetting what hurt her, it was about refusing to let that hurt stop her from living. Chapter 4. The Return. The text came at 4:47 in the morning from a number Shailene didn't recognize. Where the hell is our house? She stared at the message in the darkness of her bedroom, her heart pounding. They were home. They'd returned early, and they'd gone straight to the address where the Victorian mansion once stood. More texts flooded in from different numbers. Jasper, Lennox, even Thorne. All of them frantic, confused, demanding answers. What happened to the house? Where's our home? Shailene, answer your phone now. She turned her phone off and went back to sleep. When she woke 3 hours later, she had 47 missed calls and 23 voicemails. She listened to none of them. Instead, she made coffee, showered, and got dressed for work. She'd recently started volunteering at a women's shelter, helping with financial literacy workshops. It gave her purpose, kept her mind occupied, reminded her why she'd fought so hard to free herself. At noon, there was a knock on her apartment door. She looked through the peephole and saw Jasper standing there, his face haggard, his clothes wrinkled. She opened the door but didn't invite him in. What happened? He demanded. We went to the house and it's gone. There's just construction. The neighbors said you sold it weeks ago. How could you do that? It was mine to sell, Shailene said calmly. It was our family home. No, it was my father's home. You all just lived there. Jasper ran his hands through his hair. You can't just... This is insane. Where are we supposed to go? Mother and father used all their savings on the Switzerland trip. We can't afford anything close to that size. Grandmother Isolde needs space for her medical equipment. We have nowhere to go. You should have thought about that before you all left for 3 months to celebrate your brother's mistress having a baby. That's not fair. Fair? Shailene's voice sharpened. You want to talk about fair? Was it fair that not one of you asked if I wanted to come to Switzerland? Was it fair that you all deleted me from family photos? That you acted like I was a ghost in my own marriage? You want to talk about fair, Jasper? He looked away. I know we didn't treat you well. You didn't treat me at all. I was furniture, useful when you needed something, invisible the rest of the time. So this is revenge? This is survival. He stared at her for a long moment. Alden is devastated. Havana left him. She took the baby back to Florida the moment she realized we had no money. His daughter is gone, his home is gone, and now his family is falling apart. Are you happy? Something twisted in Shailene's chest, but she pushed it down. I'm not happy, but I'm free, and that's more than I had when you all were in my life. Will you at least meet with him? He needs to talk to you. I have nothing to say to him. Please, Shailene, he's my brother. He's falling apart. She looked at Jasper, really looked at him. He'd lost weight. There were dark circles under his eyes. The confident, dismissive man who used to ignore her at family dinners was gone, replaced by someone desperate and broken. Tell Alden he can figure this out the same way I figured everything out when you all abandoned me. Alone. She closed the door in his face. Inside, she leaned against the wall, her hands shaking. Part of her felt powerful, part of her felt cruel, part of her felt nothing at all. Her phone rang. Malachi. "Hey," she answered, her voice unsteady. "Hey yourself. Still on for lunch? Can we make it dinner? I'm having a complicated morning. Everything okay?" She hesitated, then decided to trust him. "My ex-husband's family's back in town. They just discovered the house is gone." "How are you feeling?" "I don't know. Powerful and guilty and angry all at once." "Want me to come over? We can skip dinner and just talk." The offer was so gentle, so unconditional, that she almost cried. "Yes, please. I'll be there in 20 minutes. When Malachi arrived, he brought Chinese takeout and listened while she told him everything. The marriage, the mistress, the Switzerland trip, the house, the revenge. She told him things she'd never said out loud, watching his face for judgment that never came. "You're not a bad person," he said when she finished. "I destroyed their lives. You reclaimed yours. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Yes. They destroyed your life first. You just stopped letting them." She wanted to believe that. She wanted to believe she was the hero of this story and not the villain. But the look on Jasper's face haunted her. That evening, another knock on her door. This time it was Alden. She saw him through the peephole and froze. He looked terrible, thinner, older, defeated. He knocked again, harder. "Shailene, I know you're in there. Please, I just need 5 minutes." Malachi stood behind her. "Do you want me to answer it?" "No, this is mine to handle." She opened the door. Alden's eyes widened when he saw her, then shifted to Malachi standing in the background. "Who's that?" Alden asked. "None of your business. What do you want? I want to understand. Why would you do this? I know I hurt you, but destroying the house, leaving us with nothing? That's cruel, Shailene." "Cruel," she repeated slowly. "You left me alone for 3 months while you celebrated your mistress's pregnancy. You gave me $3,000 like I was the housekeeper. Your mother hugged your pregnant mistress in front of me and acted like I didn't exist. And you think I'm the one who's cruel. I made mistakes. I know that. But we're family." "We were never family, Alden. I was a placeholder, someone to keep the house running while you built a life that didn't include me." "That's not true, isn't it? When was the last time you asked how I was? When was the last time you touched me like you loved me? When was the last time you defended me when your mother criticized everything I did?" He had no answer. "The house was mine," she continued. "My father left it to me. You just assumed it was yours because you're a man and I'm a woman, and that's how your family thinks. But you assumed wrong. What do you want me to say? I'm sorry? I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry I was a terrible husband. I'm sorry I let them treat you badly. I'm sorry for all of it. But please, please help us. We have nowhere to go." "You should have thought about that before you left." "I left for 3 months. That's not a lifetime." "It was long enough for me to realize I didn't want you back." Alden's face crumpled. "I lost my daughter. Havana took her. She said she didn't sign up for a man with no money and no future. My baby is gone." For the first time, Shailene felt a flicker of sympathy, but it wasn't enough. "I'm sorry about your daughter, truly, but that's not my responsibility." "We have nowhere to go," he repeated, his voice breaking. "My parents are staying in a motel. Grandmother Isolde is with Lennox in a 1-bedroom apartment. We're all scattered. The family is destroyed." "Then maybe you'll understand what it felt like when you destroyed me." He stepped closer, desperate. "I love you. I know I didn't show it, but I do. I always have." "You don't know what love is," Shailene said quietly. "Love doesn't abandon. Love doesn't erase. Love doesn't make someone feel invisible. You don't love me, Alden. You just loved having someone who wouldn't fight back. That's not fair." It's the truth. He dropped to his knees on her doorstep. Please, I'll do anything. I'll work 3 jobs. I'll pay you back. I'll spend the rest of my life making this right. Just please, help us. She looked down at him, this man who'd once had all the power, now begging on her doorstep. She'd imagined this moment 100 times. She'd thought it would feel like victory. Instead, it felt hollow. Get up, she said softly. You're embarrassing yourself. I don't care, please, Shailene. Get up, Alden. He stayed on his knees, tears running down his face. I'm begging you. Malachi stepped forward. She said, get up. Alden looked at Malachi, then back at Shailene. You moved on that quickly. It's been less than 3 months. I moved on the moment you stopped seeing me as human. That was years ago. Alden stood slowly, his face hardening. You'll regret this. When you're alone and you realize what you threw away, you'll regret it. I threw away nothing. You're the one who lost everything. He turned and walked away, his shoulders slumped. Shailene closed the door and leaned against it, her whole body shaking. Malachi wrapped his arms around her. You okay? I don't know. I thought that would feel better than it did. Revenge never feels as good as we think it will. Then what's the point? Maybe there isn't one. Maybe the point is just to survive and build something new. She pulled back, looking at him. You're being really patient with all this drama. You're worth the drama. How do you know? Because you're still standing. Because you fought back. Because you're trying to heal instead of hiding. That's worth everything. She kissed him then, really kissed him for the first time. It was desperate and grateful and terrified all at once. When they pulled apart, she whispered, I'm not sure I'm ready for this. You keep saying that, but you're here anyway. I'm scared. Me too. Of what? Of falling for someone who's still in love with her pain. The words hit her hard. I'm not in love with my pain. Aren't you? You check your phone constantly, waiting for them to contact you. You drive by the construction site. You told me you even saved screenshots of their Switzerland photos. That's not healing. That's feeding the wound. I just want to make sure they're suffering. And when they are, will that fix anything? She didn't have an answer. Malachi cupped her face gently. I'm not trying to be harsh. I'm trying to help you see what you're doing to yourself. You won, they lost, but you're still letting them live in your head rent-free. At some point, you have to decide if you want to be free or if you just want to be right. Can't I be both? Not if being right means you stay angry forever. She pulled away, walking to the window. I'm not ready to forgive them. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to release them. There's a difference. She looked out at the city, at the light starting to flicker on as evening approached. Somewhere out there, Alden was figuring out how to survive without her. Cordelia was realizing that her son had destroyed everything. The family was scattered, broken, reaping exactly what they'd sown. And she was standing in an apartment she'd bought with her own money, with a man who actually saw her, living a life she'd built from rubble. I don't know how to release them, she admitted. Then let me help you figure it out. She turned to face him. Why are you doing this? Why do you care so much? Because I see who you could be if you weren't carrying all this weight. And she's extraordinary. You don't even know me. I'm trying to, but you have to let me. She crossed the room and took his hands. I'm going to mess this up. I'm going to push you away and test you and probably hurt you because I'm broken. Everyone's broken. The question is whether you're willing to heal. I don't know if I can. Then let's find out together. That night, after Malachi left, Shailene sat on her couch and deleted every screenshot she'd saved, every photo from Switzerland, every message from the family group chat, every reminder of who they were and what they'd done. It didn't make the anger disappear, but it made it quieter. She texted Malachi, "Thank you for seeing me." He responded immediately, "Always." And for the first time since this all began, Shailene wondered if maybe, just maybe, winning didn't have to mean someone else losing. Maybe it just meant refusing to lose herself. Chapter 5. The Crumbling. They thought begging would work, thought guilt would break her, but they didn't know she'd already broken and rebuilt herself into something they couldn't recognize. 2 weeks after Alden appeared at her door, Shailene heard through a mutual acquaintance that the weary family was fracturing. Cordelia had rented a cramped 2-bedroom apartment 40 minutes outside the city, the only place they could afford on short notice. Thorne was working double shifts at a hardware store, a man who'd once prided himself on never touching manual labor. Lennox and Bryony had cut off contact with Alden entirely, blaming him for their sudden poverty, and Havana was in Florida with the baby, refusing to let Alden visit unless he could prove financial stability. The mutual acquaintance, a woman named Iris, who worked at the women's shelter with Shailene, had run into Jasper at a grocery store. He looked devastated, Iris reported. He kept saying it wasn't supposed to be like this, that families don't just fall apart. They do when they're built on rot, Shailene replied. But the words felt heavy in her mouth. She'd been seeing Malachi regularly for a month now. Real dates, real conversations, real vulnerability. She'd told him about her father, about the years of her marriage when she slowly disappeared, about the moment she realized she'd rather be alone than invisible. He listened to everything, held space for her pain, never tried to fix what couldn't be fixed. But she was still testing him. One evening they had plans for dinner at 7. At 6:30 she texted, "Can't make it, sorry." No explanation, no rain check offer, just a cancellation. He replied, "Okay, everything all right?" She didn't respond. 2 hours later, he texted again, "I'm here if you want to talk." She turned off her phone. The next day she showed up at his apartment unannounced. He opened the door, surprised but not angry. "Hey," he said, "I was worried about you." "Why?" "Because you disappeared without explanation." "So? People cancel plans." "True, but you've done it 3 times now, and each time you go silent after. That's not canceling plans, that's pushing me away." She crossed her arms. "Maybe you should take the hint." He leaned against the doorframe, studying her. "What are you doing, Shailene?" "What do you mean?" "I mean you're testing me. You're seeing how much I'll tolerate before I walk away. You want me to prove I'm different from him, but you're setting me up to fail." "That's not true, isn't it? You cancel last minute to see if I'll get mad. You ignore my texts to see if I'll panic. You show up unannounced to see if I'll be with someone else. You're trying to catch me being the bad guy you're convinced I am. You don't know what you're talking about. Then tell me. Tell me what's really going on." She felt her chest tighten. "I'm scared, okay? I'm terrified that if I let you in, you'll turn into him. That you'll be perfect for 6 months or a year, and then you'll stop seeing me. You'll stop caring. And I'll be back where I started." "So you're rejecting me first?" "Maybe." He ran his hand through his hair, frustrated. "I can't keep doing this. I care about you. I'm patient. I'm understanding. But I can't be your emotional punching bag while you work through your trauma. That's not fair to me. Life isn't fair." "You're right. It's not. But relationships are supposed to be, and this isn't a relationship. This is you using me to prove that everyone will hurt you eventually." The words landed like punches. "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm not going to keep being tested. I'm not him. I've shown you that 100 different ways. But if you can't see it, if you're determined to believe the worst, then maybe we shouldn't do this." Panic flared in her chest. "You're breaking up with me?" "I'm saying I need you to decide. Do you want to be with me? Actually be with me? Or do you want to keep one foot out the door, ready to run the moment things feel real?" "I don't know." "Then figure it out. Because I'm all in, Shailene. But I can't be all in by myself." He stepped back and gently closed the door. She stood in the hallway, stunned. She'd expected him to fight harder, to beg her to stay, to prove once again that he was different. Instead, he'd set a boundary. She went home and spent the night crying, hating herself for pushing away the one good thing in her life, hating Alden for breaking her so thoroughly that she couldn't accept love, even when it was standing right in front of her. The next morning, her phone rang. "Cordelia." Against her better judgment, Shailene answered. How could you? Cordelia's voice was shrill, accusatory. How could you destroy our family like this? I didn't destroy anything. You did that yourselves. We welcomed you into our family. We treated you like a daughter. Shailene almost laughed. You treated me like unpaid help. You criticized every meal I cooked, every outfit I wore, every opinion I had. You hugged your son's mistress while I stood in the background. You planned a 3-month trip around another woman's pregnancy and never once asked if I wanted to come. You didn't treat me like a daughter. You treated me like I was invisible. That's not true. It's completely true. And the fact that you can't see it proves how little you ever thought about me. Thorn had a heart attack, Cordelia said suddenly, her voice breaking. The stress of all this, moving, working those horrible jobs, worrying about money. He collapsed at work 3 days ago. He's in the hospital. Shailene felt something crack inside her. Is he okay? He's stable, but the doctors say his heart is damaged. He needs rest, medication, no stress. How is that possible when we're living in a cramped apartment and he's working double shifts to pay rent? I'm sorry about Thorn. I really am. But that's not my responsibility. You had $4 million from that house. You could have shared it. You could have helped us. Like you helped me when I was alone for 3 months. Like you helped me when your son brought his mistress to family dinners. Like you helped me when I was erased from every family photo. Cordelia was silent. You want to talk about family? Shailene continued, her voice harder than she intended. Family doesn't abandon each other. Family doesn't celebrate one person's pain for another person's gain. You stopped being my family the moment you decided I didn't matter. I hope you're happy, Cordelia spat. I hope this revenge makes you feel powerful. Because you've destroyed lives, Shailene. Good people are suffering because of you. Good people don't treat others like garbage. Cordelia hung up. Shailene sat in her apartment, shaking. Thorn had a heart attack. The man who'd lectured her about knowing her place was now sick because of stress she'd caused. Guilt crashed over her in waves. She called Malachi without thinking. He answered on the 3rd ring. Shailene? Thorn had a heart attack. Alden's father. He's in the hospital because of the stress, because of what I did. Are you okay? I don't know. I feel like a monster. Can I come over? I thought you were done with me. I said I needed you to decide. I never said I was done. 20 minutes later, he was at her door with coffee and that steady, calm presence that made her feel less alone. Talk to me, he said. What if I went too far? What if I'm the villain in this story? You're not a villain. You're someone who protected herself. But people are getting hurt. People were already hurt. You just stopped being the only one bleeding. She looked at him. How do you always know what to say? I don't. I'm just saying what I see. And what do you see? I see someone who's strong and broken and trying to figure out how to be both at the same time. I see someone who's terrified of being hurt again, so she hurts people first. I see someone who wants to trust me but doesn't know how. I don't know how, she admitted. Every time things feel good, I wait for the other shoe to drop. And when it doesn't drop, I throw it myself. Why? Because at least then I'm in control. But you're not in control. You're just creating the pain you're trying to avoid. She started crying then, really crying, for the first time in weeks. I don't know how to stop. Then let me help you. But you have to actually let me in. No more tests, no more pushing me away to see if I'll come back. Either trust me or don't, but decide. What if I can't? Then we end this now, because I can't love someone who won't let themselves be loved. The word hung between them. Love. You love me, she whispered. I'm getting there, but I need to know you're getting there too. She looked at him, at his open face and patient eyes, at the way he'd shown up even after she'd hurt him, at the way he kept choosing her even when she was making it impossible. I'm terrified, she said. Me too. I'm going to mess this up. Probably. I'm still angry at Alden, at his family, at everyone who hurt me. That's okay. Anger takes time. I don't know if I'll ever fully trust you. Trust builds slowly. I'm willing to wait. She took his hands. I want to try. I want to let you in. I don't know if I can, but I want to try. That's all I'm asking. They sat together on the couch, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her, and for a moment everything felt almost peaceful. But in the back of her mind, Thorne's heart attack haunted her. The image of Alden on his knees, the sound of Cordelia's broken voice. She'd won the battle, but she was starting to wonder what the war had cost. "Do you think I'm a bad person?" she asked Malachi quietly. "No." "How can you be sure?" "Because bad people don't ask that question." She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that protecting herself didn't make her cruel, that standing up for herself didn't make her a villain. But as she sat in Malachi's arms, she couldn't shake the feeling that everyone involved in this mess had lost something precious, and she didn't know if any of them could ever get it back. Chapter 6. The begging Alden showed up at her apartment at midnight, drunk and sobbing, and Shailene almost felt sorry for him. Almost. She heard the pounding on her door from her bedroom, jolting awake from a dream she couldn't remember. For a moment, she thought it was Malachi, but he always texted before coming over. She grabbed her phone. No messages. The pounding continued, harder now, desperate. She looked through the peephole and froze. Alden stood there, swaying slightly, his face wet with tears, his shirt untucked and wrinkled. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in 3 months. "Shailene," he called through the door, his voice thick and slurred. "Please, I know you're there. Please open the door." She should have called the police. She should have told him to leave. Instead, she opened the door, keeping the chain lock engaged. "What do you want, Alden?" He looked at her through the crack in the door, and she saw real anguish in his eyes. "I need to talk to you, please. Just 5 minutes. You're drunk. I know I am, but please, Shailene, I'm begging you." Against every instinct, she closed the door, slid the chain off and opened it again. He stumbled inside, nearly tripping over his own feet. She caught him reflexively, then pulled away. "Sit down before you fall down," she said. He collapsed onto her couch, his head in his hands. The smell of whiskey rolled off him in waves. "What's so important that you're showing up drunk at midnight?" she asked, staying near the door. "Everything's gone," he said, his voice breaking. "Everything. The house, the money, my family, my daughter, everything." "That's not my problem." He looked up at her, his eyes bloodshot. "How can you be so cold?" "Cold?" She felt anger surge. "You want to talk about cold? You left me alone for 3 months. You gave me $3,000 like I was the help. You let your mistress move into our lives while I became invisible. And you think I'm cold?" "I know. I know I was terrible. I was the worst husband. I was selfish and blind, and I took you for granted." "Yes, you did. But I'm paying for it now. God, am I paying for it?" "Good." He flinched. "My father had a heart attack because of the stress. Mother and he are living in a place smaller than this apartment. My sisters won't speak to me. They blame me for everything. Jasper moved to another state because he couldn't stand to be around me anymore. Grandmother Isolde is in assisted living because no one can take care of her. And Havana," his face crumpled, "she's gone. She took my daughter to Florida. She won't let me see her unless I can prove I have stable income and housing. I haven't seen my little girl in 2 weeks. I don't even know if she remembers me." For the first time, Shailene felt a genuine pang of sympathy. "What's her name? Your daughter?" "Aria," he whispered. "Her name is Aria. She has these tiny hands and she laughs when I sing to her. She's perfect, and I'm losing her." "That's not my fault." I know it's not. None of this is your fault. It's all mine. I destroyed everything. I destroyed you. I destroyed my family. I destroyed my own life, and I don't know how to fix it." He started crying then, deep, gut-wrenching sobs that shook his whole body. She watched him fall apart on her couch, this man who'd once had all the power, now reduced to a weeping drunk at midnight. "Why are you here?" she asked quietly. "Because I need help. I need money to get an apartment so I can see my daughter. I need help finding a better job. I need someone who knows how to survive when everything falls apart. And the only person I know who's done that is you. You want me to help you? Please, I'm begging you. I'll pay you back. I'll work 3 jobs. I'll spend the rest of my life repaying you. Just please, help me see my daughter." She sat down in the chair across from him, studying this broken man who used to be her husband. "Do you remember our wedding?" she asked suddenly. He looked up, confused. "What?" "Our wedding. Do you remember your vows?" I said I'd love you forever, that I'd protect you, that I'd make you happy. And did you?" He shook his head slowly. "No. You did the opposite of everything you promised. You made me invisible. You let your family treat me like garbage. You brought your mistress into our home. You left me alone to celebrate another woman having your baby. You broke every promise you ever made to me." "I know. So why would I help you now? Why would I give you money after you gave me $3,000 for 3 months? Why would I care about your problems after you stopped caring about mine years ago?" "Because you're better than me," he said softly. "You're better than all of us, and maybe you'll show mercy even when I don't deserve it. I'm not better than you. I'm just done being your doormat. I know, and I don't blame you for hating me, but please, Shailene, I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm not even asking you to care about me. I'm asking you to help an innocent child who didn't ask for any of this. Aria deserves to know her father. Please don't let my mistakes cost her that." The words hit differently. This wasn't about him anymore. It was about a baby who'd done nothing wrong. "How much do you need?" she asked. Hope flared in his eyes. 5,000. That's enough for first and last month's rent on a decent place. Enough for Havana to believe I'm stable. And then what? You get your daughter back and everything's fine? I don't know. I just know I need to try. Shailene stood up and walked to her bedroom. She opened her safe, pulled out an envelope, and returned to the living room. She handed him $5,000 in cash. He stared at it, then at her. "Why are you doing this?" "I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for Aria. She shouldn't suffer because her father is an idiot." He clutched the money, fresh tears streaming down his face. "Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll pay you back. I swear I will." "I don't want your money, Alden. I never wanted your money." "Then what did you want?" She looked at him for a long moment. "I wanted you to see me. I wanted to matter. I wanted to feel like I was part of your life instead of just furniture in your house. That's all I ever wanted. I see you now." Too late. He nodded, defeated. "Can I ask you something?" "What?" "That guy who was here a few weeks ago, are you with him?" "That's none of your business." "Does he treat you well?" "Despite everything," she answered honestly. "He sees me, really sees me. He doesn't just look at me when he needs something. He looks at me because he actually cares what I'm thinking and feeling." "That's all you ever wanted from me, wasn't it?" "Yes." He stood slowly, steadying himself against the couch. "I'm sorry, Shailene. I know it doesn't change anything, but I'm truly sorry. You deserved so much better than what I gave you." "Yes, I did." He walked to the door, then turned back. "For what it's worth, I did love you. I just didn't know how to show it. Love isn't about saying words, Alden. It's about actions, and your actions told me I didn't matter." He nodded and left. Shailene locked the door behind him and stood in her quiet apartment, feeling strange and hollow. She'd helped him. After everything, she'd still helped him. She texted Malachi. "Can you come over?" He replied immediately, "On my way." When he arrived 15 minutes later, she told him everything. He listened without judgment. "How do you feel?" he asked when she finished. "I don't know. Giving him that money didn't feel like losing, but it didn't feel like winning either. Maybe it wasn't about either. Maybe it was just about doing what felt right in the moment. I'm supposed to hate him, I'm supposed to enjoy watching him suffer. You're human. Humans are complicated. You can be angry at someone and still not want them to lose their child. Those things can exist at the same time. I thought revenge would feel better than this. Revenge never feels as good as we think it will, because at the end of the day, their suffering doesn't undo ours. She leaned into him. I'm tired of being angry. Then stop. It's not that easy. It is and it isn't. You can't force it, but you can choose to stop feeding it. You can choose to focus on building your life instead of destroying his. What if I can't let go? Then you stay trapped, and he wins anyway because you're still letting him control your emotional life. She hated that he was right. I don't want him to win, she said. Then live well. Build something beautiful. Be happy. That's the only real revenge. She kissed him then, grateful and exhausted and terrified of how much she was starting to need him. I'm falling for you, she admitted. I know. I'm falling for you too. What if I hurt you? You will, and I'll hurt you. That's what people do. But we'll also love each other, and hopefully, the love will outweigh the hurt. How can you be so sure? I'm not, but I'm willing to risk it. She held him close, feeling safer than she had in months, wondering if maybe, just maybe, she could start letting go of the past and reaching for the future. But as she drifted off to sleep in his arms, she thought about Alden stumbling out of her building with $5,000 in his pocket, and she wondered if she'd just made a terrible mistake or the first step toward real freedom. Chapter 7. The Softening. Malachi didn't call for 3 weeks, and Shailene realized she'd been waiting for the phone to ring the entire time. It started with a small fight. She'd cancelled dinner plans again, this time with a vague excuse about being tired. He'd replied with just 2 words. Okay. Rest. No argument, no pushback, just acceptance. She'd expected him to fight for her, to demand an explanation, to prove that he cared. Instead, he gave her exactly what she asked for, space. At first, it felt like relief. No pressure, no expectations, no one needing anything from her. But after 3 days of silence, relief turned to anxiety. After a week, anxiety turned to panic. After 2 weeks, she realized what she'd done. She'd pushed him away one too many times, and he'd finally taken the hint. On day 22 of silence, she broke down and texted him, "Are you okay?" 3 hours later, he replied, "Yeah, you? Can we talk?" "Sure. When?" "Now. I'm at a gallery opening. Can we do tomorrow?" She stared at the message, feeling something twist in her chest. He was out living his life. He wasn't sitting by the phone waiting for her to decide he was worth her time. "Tomorrow works," she typed, trying to sound casual. "Giovanni's." 7? I'll be there. She spent the entire next day spiraling, trying on different outfits, practicing what she'd say, wondering if this was the conversation where he'd finally tell her he was done. She arrived at Giovanni's at 6:45, too anxious to wait any longer. Malachi was already there, sitting at their usual corner table, reading a photography magazine. He looked good, rested, happy even. "Hey," she said, sliding into the seat across from him. "Hey yourself." He put down the magazine and gave her his full attention. "You wanted to talk?" "I'm sorry." "For what?" "For cancelling, for going silent, for pushing you away." He nodded slowly. "Okay. That's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say, Shailene?" "I don't know. Something more than okay." He leaned back in his chair. "I care about you, a lot, but I can't keep being the only one fighting for this. You cancel plans, you go silent, you push me away every time we get close. And I get it. You're scared, you're hurt, but I'm tired. Tired of me. Tired of feeling like I'm always one step away from being cut out of your life. I don't know how to be with someone who won't let me in. I'm trying." "Are you?" "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're trying to find reasons to end this before it really starts." She felt tears prick her eyes. I don't want to lose you. Then stop pushing me away. I don't know how. Yes, you do. You just have to choose to trust me instead of choosing to protect yourself. The waiter came by and they ordered their food in silence. When he left, Malachi reached across the table but didn't take her hand. Tell me something real, he said. What do you mean? Tell me something you're feeling right now, not what you think I want to hear. Something real. She took a breath. I'm terrified that if I let you all the way in, you'll see how broken I am and decide I'm not worth the effort. And I'm angry at myself for giving Alden that money. I'm angry that I still care what happens to him, even after everything he did. I'm angry that I can't just hate him cleanly. What else? I'm scared that I'll never be able to trust anyone completely, that Alden broke something in me that can't be fixed, that I'll spend the rest of my life waiting for people to hurt me. Malachi was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Thank you. For what? For being honest. That's all I've ever wanted. Even if the honesty is ugly? Especially then. Their food arrived, and they ate slowly, talking about smaller things, his latest photography project, her work at the women's shelter, the book she was reading, normal things, easy things. But underneath it all, something had shifted. She'd been honest, and he hadn't run. He'd asked for truth, and she'd given it, and he was still sitting across from her. After dinner, they walked through a nearby park. The evening was cool, the streetlights casting long shadows. I went to therapy, she said suddenly. He looked at her, surprised. Yeah? After you stopped calling, I realized I needed help working through all of this. I found a therapist, Dr. Ramona Vale. I've seen her 3 times so far. How's it going? Hard. Really hard. She doesn't let me off easy. She asks questions that make me uncomfortable, but I think it's helping. I'm proud of you. For going to therapy. For doing the work. A lot of people just stay broken and blame everyone else. She stopped walking and turned to face him. I don't want to lose you, but I'm also not ready to promise you forever or tell you I'm completely healed or pretend I won't mess up again. I'm not asking for any of that. Then what are you asking for? Effort, honesty, a real chance, that's all. I can do that, he smiled. Then we're good. Just like that? Just like that. She kissed him in the middle of the park, in front of joggers and dog walkers and anyone else who might be watching. She kissed him like she meant it, like she was choosing him, like she was finally letting herself feel something other than pain. When they pulled apart, he rested his forehead against hers. I missed you. I missed you too. Over the next 2 months, they built something real. She stopped testing him. She stopped waiting for him to fail. She showed up honestly, even when it was hard. Dr. Vale helped her understand that trust wasn't something you gave all at once. It was something you built slowly, through consistent actions over time. Malachi was building it, brick by brick, by showing up even when she made it difficult. She introduced him to the women at the shelter where she volunteered. He photographed their stories with dignity and compassion, never making them feel exposed or pitied. The women loved him. He introduced her to his family. His mother, his grandmother, his nephew. They welcomed her without judgment, without questions about her past. She met his friends at a barbecue. They were artists and teachers and normal people living normal lives. For the first time in years, she felt like she belonged somewhere. One evening, they were lying in bed in her apartment when he said, I love you. She froze. You don't have to say it back, he continued. I just wanted you to know. I'm scared to say it. Why? Because the last time I loved someone, he destroyed me. I'm not him. I know, but my brain doesn't always remember that. He kissed her forehead. Then take your time. I'll still be here. 2 weeks later, she said it back. They were cooking dinner together, and he was telling a story about his nephew, and she looked at him laughing in her kitchen and realized she loved him. Not the careful, protective version of love. Real love. The kind that scared her. "I love you," she said, interrupting his story. He stopped mid-sentence, turned to face her. "Yeah?" "Yeah." He kissed her then, hard and grateful and joyful. Meanwhile, her phone rang one afternoon with an unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. "Shailene, it's Lennox." She hadn't spoken to Alden's sister in 4 months. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice neutral. "I wanted to apologize. For everything. For how we treated you. For how I treated you. You didn't deserve any of it." Shailene sat down, surprised. "Why are you calling me now?" "Because Dad died last week. Heart failure. And at the funeral, I realized how much time we wasted being cruel to people who didn't deserve it. I'm sorry about your father." "Are you?" "Yes. Despite everything, I'm sorry." Lennox was quiet for a moment. "Alden's doing better. He got a small apartment, has a job managing a warehouse. Havana is letting him see Aria twice a month. It's not much, but it's something. That's good. He told me you gave him money to get the apartment." "It was for Aria, not him." "Still, you didn't have to do that. After everything we did to you, you still helped. That says something about who you are. Or it says something about who I'm trying to be. Maybe both." They talked for 20 more minutes. Lennox told her that Cordelia had apologized to Alden before Thorne died, that the family was slowly healing, that everyone had learned hard lessons about taking people for granted. "I don't expect you to forgive us," Lennox said, "but I wanted you to know that we see you now. We see what we did and we're sorry. Thank you for saying that. Are you happy with your new life?" "Yes," Shailene said honestly. "I really am." After they hung up, she sat in her apartment thinking about forgiveness. She wasn't ready to forgive them completely. Maybe she never would be. But hearing that they understood, that they'd changed, that they were suffering consequences, it brought a kind of closure she hadn't expected. That night, she told Malachi about the call. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Lighter, like I can finally stop carrying all that rage around." "Does that mean you forgive them?" "I don't know, but I think I'm ready to stop letting them take up so much space in my head." "That's big. It's terrifying." "Why?" "Because I've been angry for so long. I don't know who I am without it." He pulled her close. "Then we'll find out together." She rested her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat, and realized something profound. Winning hadn't been about destroying Alden or his family. It had been about building a life so full of love and purpose that they didn't matter anymore. She'd won by walking away, by choosing herself, by refusing to shrink. And now, lying in the arms of a man who actually saw her, she was learning what victory really meant. It meant peace. Chapter 8. The Reckoning. The moment Shailene knew she loved Malachi, truly, deeply, without reservation, was the moment she stopped caring whether Alden suffered or not. 6 months had passed since the phone call with Lennox. 6 months of building a life that felt like hers. She'd started her consulting business, helping women navigate divorce, financial independence, and rebuilding their identities. 3 clients had become 10, then 20. The women's shelter asked her to lead monthly workshops. She was making a difference, and Malachi had become her home. They were having dinner at her apartment, cooking pasta together like they did every Wednesday, when he became unusually quiet. "What's on your mind?" she asked, stirring the sauce. He turned off the stove and faced her. "I need to talk to you about something." Her heart skipped. Those words never meant anything good. "Okay," she said carefully. He took her hands. "I love you. I want to build a life with you. And I know you're still healing. And I know you're not ready for big commitments, but I need you to know something." "What?" "I want to marry you. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday, and I need to know if that's something you can see, because if it's not, I need to know now." She stared at him, her mind racing. Marriage. The word that used to mean prison now sounded like possibility. "I'm scared," she admitted. "I know. What if I turn into who I was with Alden? What if I lose myself again? That won't happen, because I see you, and I'll keep seeing you. Every day, even when it's hard." "How can you be sure?" "I can't, but I'm willing to risk it if you are." She looked at this man who'd been patient through her worst moments, who'd held space for her healing, who'd never once made her feel like she was too broken to love. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, what? Yes, I can see it. Yes, I want to marry you. Someday." He pulled her into his arms, and they stood in the kitchen holding each other. Past a forgotten, two people who'd found each other in the wreckage and decided to build something extraordinary. But they didn't make plans yet. They agreed to wait, to keep building, to make sure the foundation was solid before adding more weight to it. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived at Shailene's apartment, from Alden. She almost threw it away unopened, but something made her read it. "Shailene, I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect you to respond, but I needed to write it anyway. I've spent the last 6 months trying to understand how I became the person who hurt you so badly. I've been in therapy. I've looked at my patterns, my choices, my failures, and I've realized something. I was never taught how to love someone. I was taught how to possess someone, how to own someone, how to keep someone small so I could feel big. My father did it to my mother. My grandfather did it to my grandmother. It's all I knew. And when I met you, this brilliant, kind, strong woman, I should have cherished you. Instead, I tried to shrink you down to a size I could handle. I'm not writing this for forgiveness. I don't deserve that. I'm writing this because you deserved an apology that actually acknowledges what I did. I erased you. I made you invisible. I let my family treat you like you didn't matter. I brought another woman into our marriage and expected you to accept it with grace. I took everything you gave and gave nothing back. You didn't destroy our family when you sold the house. I destroyed our family long before that. You just refused to be destroyed with us. I hear you're with someone new. I heard it through mutual friends. I'm happy for you. I mean that. I hope he sees you the way I should have. I hope he treats you like the extraordinary person you are. I'm doing okay. I see Arya twice a month. I have a small apartment and a job that pays the bills. Havana and I are civil for our daughter's sake. My family is slowly healing. We're all learning how to be better. But none of that changes what I did to you. I'm sorry, Shailene. I'm deeply, truly sorry. Not because it changes anything, but because it's true. I hope you're happy. You deserve every good thing this world has to offer. Alden. She read the letter twice, then set it down on her coffee table. For the first time since this all began, she felt genuine sadness for him. Not pity, not satisfaction. Just sadness that two people had created so much pain for each other. She didn't write back. She didn't need to. The letter wasn't asking for a response. It was offering closure. She showed it to Malachi that evening. "How do you feel?" he asked after reading it. "At peace. He finally understands what he did, and I don't need anything more from him." "Are you going to respond?" "No. But I'm not going to burn it either. It's just a letter. It doesn't have power over me anymore." That weekend, she ran into Jasper at a grocery store. He looked healthier than the last time she'd seen him, less haunted. "Shailene," he said, surprised. "How are you?" "I'm well. You?" "Better. I moved back to town, got a job in marketing, started over." "That's good." "I heard you're with someone. Someone who treats you right." "I am. I'm happy for you. You deserve it." They stood in the produce section, two people who'd once been connected through anger and pain, now just politely distant. "How's Alden?" she asked, surprising herself. "He's okay. Sees his daughter regularly, working hard, trying to be better. And Cordelia. Still difficult, but softer. Dad's death changed all of us." Shailene nodded. "Give them my regards." "Really? Really?" I don't wish any of you harm. I just wish you'd treated me better. We should have. We all know that now." They said goodbye, and Shailene finished her shopping feeling lighter than she had in years. That night, she sat with Maliki on her apartment balcony, looking out at the city lights. "I've been thinking," she said. "About what?" "About how this all happened for a reason, not because it was meant to be, but because it taught me what I needed to know." "What did it teach you?" "That I'm stronger than I thought. That walking away isn't weakness, it's survival. That revenge isn't about destruction, it's about refusing to be destroyed. And that real love doesn't make you smaller, it makes you more yourself." He took her hand. "You're pretty wise, you know that. I'm just tired of being angry. And I finally figured out that letting go doesn't mean they win. It means I do." 2 months later, Malachi took her back to the botanical garden where he'd first invited her to his photography exhibit. They walked through the paths as the sun set, talking about everything and nothing. He stopped in front of a fountain, turned to face her, and got down on one knee. "Shailene Rose," he said, pulling out a small box. "I know we said someday, but every day I'm with you feels like the right day. Will you marry me?" She looked at him, at this man who'd been patient and kind and real, and she felt no fear, only joy. "Yes," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." He slid the ring on her finger, and they stood in the garden, kissing and crying and laughing, two people who'd found each other in the wreckage of broken pasts and decided to build something new. As they walked back to the car, Shailene realized something. She'd started this journey wanting Alden to suffer, but she was ending it not caring if he suffered or not, because his suffering didn't matter anymore. What mattered was this man, this love, this life. And that was the real victory. Chapter 9. The New Beginning. The wedding planning was simple. 17 people, a garden ceremony, vows written from the heart, and Shailene felt more certain about this than she'd ever felt about anything in her life. They set the date for 3 months away, early summer, when the botanical garden would be in full bloom. No elaborate reception, no fancy venue, just the people who mattered most in a place that felt like theirs. But the months leading up to the wedding weren't without challenges. Cordelia sent a letter 2 weeks after the engagement announcement appeared in the local paper. Shailene stared at the envelope for 3 days before opening it. "Dear Shailene, I don't expect you to want to hear from me, but when I saw your engagement announcement, I felt compelled to write. I'm dying. Pancreatic cancer. The doctors give me 6 months, maybe less. I'm not writing to ask for forgiveness or to make excuses for how I treated you. I'm writing because I need you to know something before I'm gone. You were always stronger than I gave you credit for. Stronger than me. Stronger than any woman in our family. And I hated you for it. I hated that you didn't need us the way I needed Thorn. I hated that you had your own money, your own house, your own identity. It reminded me of everything I'd given up to be someone's wife. So I tried to make you small. I tried to make you need us, depend on us, shrink to our size. And when you refused, when you sold that house and walked away, I realized something. You'd already won. You'd been winning the whole time. You just didn't know it yet. I'm sorry for trying to break you. I'm sorry for teaching my children that power comes from making others powerless. I'm sorry for every cruel word, every dismissive look, every moment I made you feel like you didn't matter. You mattered. You still matter. And I hope your new husband knows how lucky he is. Live well, Shailene. Don't make the mistakes I made. Cordelia. Shailene read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down her face. She showed it to Malachi that night. "Are you going to respond?" he asked, gently. "I don't know. Part of me wants to. Part of me thinks it's too late." There's no wrong answer. She sat with the letter for a week, thinking about Cordelia, about the woman who'd been cruel because she was broken, about the apology that came only when death was inevitable. Finally, she wrote back, "Cordelia, thank you for your letter. Thank you for your honesty. I'm sorry you're sick. I'm sorry you spent your life feeling powerless. I'm sorry that the only way you knew how to have power was to take it from others. I don't know if I forgive you, but I don't hate you either. I just feel sad that we couldn't have had this conversation when it might have changed something. I hope your last months are peaceful. I hope you find whatever closure you're looking for. I won't be at your funeral. Not because I wish you harm, but because that chapter of my life is closed. I need to look forward, not back. I wish you peace. Shailene. She mailed the letter the next day. 2 weeks later, Lennox called to say Cordelia had died in her sleep. Peaceful, painless, holding Lennox's hand. She read your letter 100 times, Lennox said. She kept it on her nightstand. Thank you for giving her that. Shailene cried after they hung up. Not for Cordelia, but for the relationship they never had. For the woman Cordelia could have been if she'd been taught different things about power and love, but she didn't let it derail the wedding planning. She was done letting the past steal her future. Dr. Vale helped her process it all in their weekly sessions. You're allowed to feel sad and relieved at the same time, she said. Grief isn't linear, and neither is healing. Shailene threw herself into the wedding preparations. She chose a simple blue dress. Malachi wore a grey suit. They wrote their own vows. They hired a string quartet. They ordered Italian food from Giovanni's for the reception. Everything felt right. One evening, a month before the wedding, Shailene's consulting business received a donation. $20,000. Anonymous. She called the bank to trace it. After some digging, they told her the donation came from an account registered to Alden Weary. She sat in her office, staring at the computer screen, feeling something shift in her chest. He'd paid her back. Not the $5,000 she'd given him, but 4 times that amount. A gesture that said, I see what you did for me, and I want to do something for you. She didn't call him. She didn't write. She simply had her assistant send a standard thank you letter from the non-profit, acknowledging his generous donation to women in need. It felt like the final page turning. The week before the wedding, Iris from the women's shelter asked to speak with Shailene privately. They sat in the shelter's small office, and Iris looked nervous. I wanted to tell you something, Iris said. I'm leaving my husband, for real this time. I've been saving money like you taught me. I found an apartment. I'm taking my daughter and we're starting over. Shailene felt tears spring to her eyes. I'm so proud of you. I couldn't have done it without you, without your story, without seeing that it's possible to destroy everything and still build something beautiful. You're going to be okay, Shailene said. Better than okay. I know. Because you showed me how. At that moment, Shailene realized that the revenge, the pain, the destruction, all of it had led to this, to helping women find their own strength, to showing them that leaving wasn't an ending, it was a beginning. That was the real victory, not what she'd taken from Alden, but what she'd built from the rubble. The night before the wedding, Malachi stayed at his mother's house, honoring the tradition of not seeing the bride. Shailene sat in her apartment with a glass of wine, looking at the dress hanging in her closet. Tomorrow she would marry a man who saw her, really saw her. Tomorrow she would stand in a garden and promise her life to someone who'd earned it. Tomorrow she would become Shailene Rose Corrinswet, and the woman who'd once stood silent while her life crumbled would be gone forever, replaced by someone stronger, wiser, whole. She pulled out her journal and wrote one final entry about Alden, about the house, about the revenge that had brought her here. I thought winning meant watching you lose, but it doesn't. It means building something so beautiful that losing you feels like the best thing that ever happened to me. Thank you for leaving. Thank you for being cruel. Thank you for showing me I deserved better. Because of you, I found him. Because of you, I found me. And that's the greatest gift you ever gave me, even if you didn't mean to. She closed the journal and put it away. Tomorrow was about beginnings, not endings. Tomorrow was about love, not revenge. Tomorrow was everything. Chapter 10. The House That Never Was. They married in the garden where wildflowers grew between carefully manicured paths, and Shailene wore blue because she was done pretending to be anything she wasn't. The morning sun filtered through the trees as 17 guests took their seats on simple wooden chairs. Malachi's mother had woven flowers into small bouquets. His grandmother had baked a 2-tier cake. The women from the shelter had created an arch decorated with photographs of couples who'd survived. Shailene stood in the small room, looking at herself in the mirror. The blue dress was simple, elegant. This dress felt like her. Dr. Ramona Vale knocked softly. "May I come in?" "Of course." Ramona entered. "How are you feeling?" "Happy, terrified, grateful." "That's exactly right." The music started. Shailene walked down the aisle alone. No one to give her away because she'd given herself. Her father's memory walked beside her. Malachi stood at the altar, his eyes wet. When he saw her, his face transformed, pure joy. She reached him, took his hands. The officiant smiled. "Malachi and Shailene have written their own vows." "Malachi?" "Shailene, I fell in love with you when you told me it was easier to destroy things than build them. You taught me that love isn't about saving someone, it's about walking beside them. You taught me that strength looks like choosing joy after devastation. I promise to see you every day for the rest of our lives. I promise to love you when it's easy and when it's hard. I promise to build something beautiful with you." Tears streamed down Shailene's face. "Shailene." She took a breath. "Malachi, you taught me that love isn't about possession. It's about showing up every single day. You didn't save me, I saved myself. But you held my hand while I did it. You saw me when I was invisible. You waited when I was afraid. I promise to show up for you. I promise to see you every day. I promise to build something beautiful with you. I promise to choose you for the rest of my life. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife." He kissed her. The guests erupted in applause. They walked back down the aisle together, two people who'd found each other in the wreckage. The reception was simple: string lights, jazz, Italian food. During dinner, Iris stood. "I want to say something." The room quieted. "Shailene, when I first came to the shelter, I didn't think I'd survive, but you sat with me. You taught me how money could be freedom. Watching you get married gives me hope." "Thank you." Shailene hugged Iris, both crying. Later, Malachi pulled Shailene onto the dance floor. "Happy?" he asked. Deliriously. That night, Shailene stood by the window in her blue dress. Malachi wrapped his arms around her. "What are you thinking?" "About how different my life is. Now I'm married to someone who loves me, running a business that helps people. This is your life. Our life." 5 years later, Shailene stood in front of the luxury condos built where the Victorian house once stood. The morning was crisp. She'd stopped to look. The condos were beautiful, modern, completely different from the mansion. "Mama, why are we stopped?" Celine climbed out, 3 years old, with Malachi's curls. "I used to live here," Shailene said, picking her up. "Where's your house?" "It's gone. We built something new. I like our house better." "Me too, baby." They got ice cream. On the way out, someone called her name. "Shailene?" Jasper stood there, older but smiling. "Jasper, hi." "It's been years." He looked at Celine. "Your daughter?" "Yes, Celine. She's beautiful." He crouched. "Hi, Celine." Celine hid. "How are you?" "Good. Married. Expecting in November." "Wonderful. How's Alden?" "Good. Married. Kind woman. He sees Aria every other weekend. She's 7. "I'm glad. We learned. You were extraordinary and we were blind." "Thank you." They said goodbye. That evening, Shailene had dinner with Celine, bath time, story time. "Mama?" Celine asked. "Who was that man?" "Someone from when Mama was learning to be strong." "Are you strong now?" "Yes, baby. I want to be strong like you." "You already are." After Celine slept, Shailene answered emails from women who'd read her book. Clara, 42, planning her exit. "Your book saved my life. I'm ready." Shailene wrote back, offering resources, hope. Her non-profit had helped 300 women last year. Malachi came home. "Still working?" Just finishing. How was your day? Good. We drove by the old house. How did that feel? Like looking at someone else's life. I ran into Jasper, said Alden's doing well. And you felt? Happy for them. Their happiness doesn't cost me anymore. That's freedom. 6 months later, pregnant with their second child, Shailene received a package, a small wooden box, from Alden. A photograph, her and her father in front of the house, both smiling. A note. Shailene, I found this. It belonged to you. I just wanted you to have this piece of your father back. I'm doing okay. Married to someone teaching me to be better. Still seeing Arya. I heard about your non-profit. You always had that strength. Thank you for the money. Live well. Alden. She looked at the photograph. Her father's smile. She showed Malachi. Writing back? No, but I'm keeping it. She put it on her desk next to her wedding photo. On Celine's 4th birthday, they threw a party. Malachi's family, friends, women from the shelter. It was perfect. Shailene stood at the kitchen window, the same pose from that Tuesday morning, watching everyone in her garden. Malachi came behind her. What are you thinking? That I won. You did. Not by destroying anyone, by refusing to be destroyed. She turned, hand on her belly. If none of that had happened, I'd never have met you. Do you wish it had been different? I wish I hadn't had to suffer, but I can't regret the outcome. That night, Shailene sat in her garden alone. She thought about the house, the family that abandoned her. She thought about Malachi's love, Celine's laugh, the baby coming, the women she'd helped. They'd asked where the house was, but the house was never permanent. Houses could be sold, demolished. What mattered was home. She'd found that in herself, in her work, in her daughter, in her husband. She pulled out her phone and typed to Clara, "Remember, you're not destroying anything. You're refusing to be destroyed. There's a difference. On the other side is a life where you matter, where you're free. It will be yours. With love, Shailene." Malachi opened the door. Coming to bed? He sat beside her. Happy? Completely. He kissed her temple. The house had vanished, but she remained, stronger, wiser, whole. The best revenge wasn't watching them suffer. It was living so well their suffering became irrelevant. The house was gone. The marriage was gone. The pain was gone. And in their place stood something they could never touch. A woman who'd learned the only house that mattered was the one inside herself. A foundation no one could demolish. A home that was finally hers. She looked at Malachi, at the stars, at her life. She smiled. They'd asked where the house was. The answer was simple. It never mattered. What mattered was a woman who burned down a prison and built a palace from the ashes. That woman was free. That woman was her.